Well, got a guy coming over to look at this old junker that I picked up last year. I've been going back and forth as whether I wanted to sell it or not, so decided to go ahead and sell it. I took the seat cover off, I took the battery out, and I'm just going to sell it as is, real cheap, and hopefully they don't expect me to repair it every 10 seconds. So remember the Beast last year, I sold it, and within 15 minutes he had me come back, pick it up. He wanted me to replace a belt, and then I fixed that. It took about a week to get the belt, so took it back to him. He mowed his entire field, brush hogged basically, and then said he wanted his money back. So we gave up on selling lawnmowers, but I got to get rid of this, got to do something with it. So I put it on Facebook, and I put the rock bottom on it. And basically I'm just getting what I've got into it. That's all I want to get out of it. So he's coming over. I'm hoping with it being so cheap that they understand that this is rock bottom. But I can start it with the jumper cables. I'll hook it up to the wires here. I've already started that a couple times. So it starts. It's not easy to start, but it starts. I mean, it's a push button. I put a push button assembly on it here. So, and there's your toggle for your on and off. So we'll see. A lot of people biting and nibbling on this, but it's just, I'm really afraid that somebody's going to want me to maintain this piece of junk. But I figured if this doesn't work, I'm going to take the engine off and sell the engine. I can get the money I'm asking for it just out of the engine. So it's kind of funny. They'll pay a reasonable price for the engine. They'll pay a reasonable price for the transmission, but when you put the whole thing together, they won't pay it. I find it absolutely amazing. So yesterday we were in town and went to Walmart. Yeah, went to the back to get a battery for battery lawnmower, because I just sold my last one. And then we pulled to the front. I guess we went to AutoZone first. I wanted to get some Permatex, and then right across the street is Walmart. So just starting it, stopping it. And we went in, then we pulled back to the front of the Walmart parking lot after we got the battery. We went in, did some shopping, came back out, and it wouldn't start. The battery was dead. So, not too bad. This battery was 7 years old. I've talked about this. Every winter, I baby the battery on this. I get the charger out before we started. I get up at 4:30. By 9 o'clock, I put a charger on it. That way, by 3 o'clock when we get ready to go, or 4 o'clock when we get ready to go out, the battery's all charged up and we can go. So I really have babied this battery. It was a cheap battery. We bought it down in Florida when we were traveling as nomads. And, well, the battery is 7 years old. I found that absolutely fascinating that it was that old. So what I did to get this thing started was I had my tools with me, just by chance. What ended up happening was a guy called and said, "Hey, you know that mower you worked on a while back?" Yeah. He says, it's sputtering really bad. So I said, well, Saturday, I'll just come over and take a look at it real quick. And what it was is, I wasn't thinking about Kohler engines. Kohler engines, you got to leave choked a little bit when it's cold. So you choke it, you start it, and then you put down the choke. And until it warms up, you got to leave that choke open. I wasn't thinking about that. So when I put a new carburetor on that lawnmower, I set the choke, or I set it to run smooth. I didn't think about the requirement. Even the Beast here requires that you choke it a little bit until it warms up when it's cold. So I set it so it runs smooth. That meant it was choked a little bit. Well, now it's warmed up, you don't need the choke to warm it, for it to warm up. So he calls me and says, "Can you come look at it?" And I knew exactly what I'd done wrong. I set that choke wrong. So I went over there, started up, and he's so disappointed because he was really excited about mowing grass. And I went over, started up, and it's sputtering and just gasping for air. I took my Swiss Army knife, opened up the screwdriver, did about a turn and a half on that choke adjustment, Ran great. Oh, he went from nearly crying from disappointment to, I think he was crying happy. What it was is I said, I'll stay here for 10 minutes or so while you run it. He said, no. So that was fine. I knew, you know, he didn't want me on his property. I understood. I said, okay, I'll stay in town for about 10 minutes and give me a call if there's a problem with it. And after 10 minutes, I'm going to head on home. Well, he called 10 minutes. So I'm like, oh no, it didn't work. He says, this thing's running great. And I think he was crying. I think he was so excited he was crying. So I'm glad we got that fixed. So anyway, went to Walmart and that battery died. Now you got to remember that battery, it was part of our nomadic life. So we were traveling, bought it down in Florida, and I know people thought this was a terrible idea. I had one battery, house battery, but I also had it connected to the truck battery. So I had two batteries hooked up to do everything. I had an RV battery up here and I had the truck battery. So when I started the engine would charge both batteries. And when the engine was off, the battery supplied power, both batteries supplied power to the camper, the refrigerator. I loved it. I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. Everybody else thought it was terrible. No, you're gonna wake up one of these days and your truck battery's gonna be dead and you can't. Well, that didn't make any difference to me. I had a generator with a battery charger. That's how we charged the batteries back then anyways. So every morning I would get up, I'd start the generator, charge the batteries with the generator and the battery charger, or I could start the truck, either way. And then in the evening I would do it again, about 3 hours each time, so 6 hours a day I would run that generator. It was a beautiful setup. So, but the problem is, I mean, a few times we ran the battery low. One of the things we had to do, which is always difficult, was the truck still has the capability, but back then we could get AT&T wireless internet through the truck. So you had to turn the key on. So if you pay for it, I think it was $20 a month. And we could still get this package. We just shut it off when we moved here. So you turn the key on and the truck provides with internet. So with us being in the back of the truck, it was totally, I mean, it was so cool. We'd start the generator, charge the batteries, have the truck key on, and we could have internet. The problem is you never really got a full charge doing that because the truck was always draining power. So we would, it was hard on the batteries. I understood that back then, but I always took care of the battery the best I could and charged it whenever I could. So when we got into places that had electric, which in Texas, they had electric everywhere we went, I would just plug in the battery charger non-stop and I would let it trickle charge all it wanted. And every few hours the battery charger would kick on, charge for, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes and just shut off. So what was happening then is any damage we had done to the battery was being repaired. So anyway, we bought that battery February 2018. Here it is, April 2025. So that's 7 years, just a little bit over 7 years that battery lasted. So I looked up this morning and said typically a battery will last anywhere from 2 to 5 years, sometimes 6. But last winter it was so cold and the battery really struggled. Carolyn even said, why don't we get a new battery? And I said, maybe next year. Well, I didn't realize it was gonna be so early in the year. But man, that battery is so expensive. We didn't get the cheapest battery. Cheapest battery could have been $80. We got the next one up, it was $179. But for the next level, it was almost $400 for that battery. Oh, it just breaks your heart. Batteries cost so much. But anyway, the truck seems happy now, so that means we've replaced the variable valve timing solenoids, the exhaust and the intake, both sides. We've replaced the battery. I think last year I replaced the thermostat. When I bought the variable timing solenoids, variable valve timing solenoids, I also bought a pressure sensor for the oil pressure. just in case that was needed. But I still have that. I didn't return it or anything, just in case the check engine light comes on, because it could have been either one. It could have been the variable valve timing or the pressure switch or sensor. I thought about going and replacing that pressure sensor, but it's underneath the tire. You know, I gotta take the tire off, and it would be an all-day project, so I'll just do it. I absolutely have to. But so getting the truck, I guess, you know, I always think my last wife was pretty harsh on me when it came to vehicles. She did not like having vehicles break down. She just didn't. And if it broke down, it was my fault because I didn't do enough maintenance on it. Well, the variable valve timing, I mean, that's just something that's going to go out. But however, she would have expected me to have had that in the maintenance schedule. Well, why didn't you replace that before it went out? Well, how was I supposed to know it was supposed to go out? You know, who knows? She didn't seem to understand that you couldn't predict the whole thing. But she always thought it was like an oil change. Just change them out, you know, when you're supposed to. And she was so hard on me for that. So I guess I've gained some guilt anytime the vehicle goes wrong, because yesterday the battery died and I just felt absolutely guilty, like, oh my gosh, here we are, you know, 30 miles away from home on a Saturday and the truck isn't going to start. I mean, fortunately we were at Walmart and AutoZone. I mean, we were fine. I went over to AutoZone, picked up a battery, and I had my tools with me. I meant to say that. I had my tools with me because we went over and worked on that lawnmower. But I don't know. I don't think I even told Carolyn, I said, what do you think? Do you think I should have replaced that battery? She said, well, I had considered, obviously she considered it. But I mean, I do try to take care of the battery. The battery doesn't really give us a lot of trouble. But we got an indication the other day that the battery was giving us some trouble. And I guess I should have just went ahead and did it. I mean, like the other day, like 4 days ago, so we hadn't even went to town yet, I aired up some tires, lawnmower tires, with that little, you know, tire inflator that you plug in a cigarette lighter. And I aired up 2 tires, and then I tried to start the truck wouldn't start. So there was an indication the battery was going dead. So we were planning on getting a battery. I probably should have just gotten one before we had a problem, but what are you gonna do? So hopefully the truck's fixed, and then we'll sell the lawnmower to get the money back for the battery, or at least the parts, or whatever you want to look at. So I just hate to spend that much money. So if you'll click this up next box, it'll take you over my other channel. We got a brand new video coming out today on that. So I hope I can inspire you. Stay on top of things. Single of your dreams. Thanks for watching.